Well, hello, my crafty friends. Today I wanted to do a informational video for you guys. I wanted to bring out some alcohol inks and a ton of different surfaces that we could play with, and to let you guys see what the alcohol inks do. So I have Terra Slate paper here, which is something that is kind of new to me, so I wanted to see how it worked. The next thing that I brought out was mineral paper, and I've used mineral paper a couple of times, so I wanted to see what it did on alcohol inks though, and this is a rock paper. We have vellum. This is some pearlescent vellum that I have from Graphics, and I know that it is a smooth surface. I also brought out a piece of acetate to use. I have Legion's Yupo paper, and this is medium weight Yupo. I have the heavy weight Yupo paper from Tim Holtz that I am wanting to use, and this other ones are like the regular Yupo, the black cardstock paper, the silver, and the silver sparkle. I actually don't end up using these because there was just so much, and I did not think that it would take as long as it did, but it's okay. So the first thing I've done is I've brought out just some cuts of each of the paper and some different alcohol inks. Now I have the original alcohol inks, I have the alcohol ink pearls, I have the newer inks that came out. So these are the original ones. These are Cool Perry, I have Amethyst that we're going to look at. This is Purple Twilight. We also have the Indigo, we have some of the Aquarium ink, we have Denim, and we also have Turquoise. Those are the originals. Now I have the Mixatives that came out with the originals. We have silver, we also have the gold, and we have the pearl. So I have those, and then we have the alloys, which are newer. We have Foundry, I have Mind, and then I brought in Gilded. Now as far as the alcohol pearls, we have Alchemy. And you see that the mica is at the bottom, so you have to shake these. You have to shake the daylight out of these so that that ball gets to moving. There's Enchanted, we have Deception, we have Splendor, and we also have Intrigue. Then the new inks, we have Glacier, we have Mojito, this is Everglades, we also have Moss. We brought in our Monsoon color, we have Laguna, and then we have Cobalt. So these are all the inks. There's a ton of different variations, and I'm going to try to give you a few. I also brought in the blending solution and some of the 91% alcohol. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I have the Yupo, the acetate, the vellum, the mineral paper, and the Terra Slate paper, and I am going to do a couple of tests so that you guys can see. These these papers will be in the same position each time that I'm doing one. So this is just the regular alcohol inks that I am using. And as you can see up top, that's that mineral paper. The second one is the Yupo. That mineral paper moves very, very well. The Yupo is moving okay. And then down at the bottom, you see that there's that vellum. The bottom left is the vellum. So now I'm going to drop a dab of alcohol in each of them. So the first one you have is mineral. The second one is the Yupo. Middle, you have acetate. Bottom left, you have the vellum. And bottom right, you have the Terra Slate. So now I'm going to bring in another one of the original alcohol inks, and I am going to drop in one of those. And this time, I'm going to do the alcohol blending solution. So the first dot is just the alcohol ink. The second one is with 91% alcohol. And the third one, I have added in some blending solution. And I'm going to tell you guys that the mineral paper moves beautiful. So now this is where we're going to bring in the alcohol inks and the mixatives. So with the original alcohol inks again, and this time we're going to add in some of the mixatives. I have shaken these very, very well. Now the thing I wanted to see with the mixatives is, first, I did the alcohol inks first, then the mixative on top. The second one, I did the mixative first and a drop of alcohol ink on top. I wanted to see how those moved. Then you're going to see me do a drop of the alcohol ink and the mixatives with a dot of alcohol, and then reverse that. And then lastly, a drop of alcohol ink, the mixative, and the alcohol blending solution. So just want to see how these move with the different substrates, using it in different ways, adding in different additives. And again, you guys see, like, I love the way the Yupo is moving. The mineral paper looks like it just runs rampant. I will say that vellum was a really good alternative if you are looking for something. The acetate does pretty well too. I think that in all, I feel like you could work with any of these papers. It just depends on what you're going for. So for example, if I wanted a little more control, I might use that Terra Slate paper because it does move and it moves nicely, but it doesn't get out of control on me. I feel like I had more control with the Terra Slate paper. In the middle was the Yupo that kind of moved, had a little bit of movement to it, and ran away from me, but not as much as the mineral paper. Now, if you're looking for free flow, I want you to mix and make magic. That mineral paper is a great option for that. I will say the mineral paper is the thinnest of all of the papers that I am using today. The mineral paper reminds me of copier paper, but it is a lot stronger, so you wouldn't be able to tear it that way, but it is as flexible. So now we're going to go in and do the alcohol ink pearls. So the pearls are kind of like using the original alcohol inks and adding in that pearl mixative, but it's already done for you. The one thing that I did find was on certain surfaces, the pearls would react kind of chunky almost. And the first time I did this, I thought that maybe I had not shaken it enough. But this time, I know I shook it and shook it and shook it. It did not end up causing an issue at the end, but during the process, I had to work with it and I was a little bit leery. So that was the alcohol ink pearls. Now we are going to do the new alcohol inks, which are the newer ones that came out, and you can always tell by the names of them. And I'm going to use the alloys. And again, I'm going to do it with the alcohol ink first, and then the alloys, and then the alcohol inks, then those using 91% alcohol, and then them using the blending solution. And you can see that the one thing that I noticed about the alloys versus the mixative is the alloys move a lot freer. They break apart a little bit easier than the mixatives usually did. And I will say that I felt like the new alcohol inks, I don't know if the formula has changed some, but they seemed to move a lot easier on all of the surfaces than the original inks. Now, I still love my original inks. I still use them a lot, and there are a ton of different colors that you can use. The newer inks are more vibrant than the older alcohol inks were, so you will get a deeper color if that's what you're going for. But of course, you can find a use for all of these because it depends on what you are attempting to do. So I simply wanted to do this for you guys and show you what are the differences and what you are able to do with these inks on different mediums, because I have had several questions about this. Now, what I'm going to do, because this part of the video ended up being so long and I did not really want to cut out a lot of the information for you guys, I will have a second video showing you guys how I turned all of these backgrounds into some very, very beautiful cards that were quick and simple. So this was the hardest part. So lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to look at just the new alcohol inks. So this is the new alcohol inks, which are the ones that came out recently, along with the different solutions. So the middle is going to be with alcohol and the end is going to be with the blending solution. The first one is just the alcohol ink by itself. And I really do feel like the new alcohol inks move a lot faster. They're a lot looser than the original ones. But like I said, I love them both. So now we're going to move into making some full page background. So this is going to be the original alcohol inks. I'm going to play around and do all of it, and I am going to make several different backgrounds. This is just using the original alcohol ink. I'm using the Heavy Weight Yupo, and I am playing and having an absolute ball. I will tell you that you can get lost in these alcohol inks. There's so many things that you can do. There is never a thing as messing up. So for example, when I was doing this background, one of the things that I felt like was that very light purple up at the top, I had put way too much there. I was thinking about how I was going to want to cut this, and I was thinking that I wanted to get all of the different colors in, so I needed to move my colors up, and that's simply what I did. And they mix and match and move and do this magical thing that I don't know of any other medium that quite does the same thing. And then, Tim Holtz and Ranger came out with the blower with the new alcohol inks that came out, and that helps so much. I really think that's like the only tool that I use now, but you could use the spritzer with the alcohol. You could use, there are brushes, there are foam pads that you can use with the blenders that work really well. So I have the new alcohol inks. I'm adding in some of my alloys to each of those and creating just some variation and moving that around. I will tell you that the alloys are a little more stubborn, but you can get them to move with these inks. You just drop in, I usually drop in either alcohol or the blending solution, and you see that it kind of just makes it break up. It's almost like the principal coming and breaking up a group in the hallway. That's the way that I think about it when I drop in any of the solutions to work with those. And you can see like I am shaking. They have little balls in them that require you to shake them up a lot in order to get the liquids moving and to get them mixed together well, so that you don't get any chunkiness when you are creating your cards. So I am, as you guys can see, I have gone in and added multiple layers of colors. I'm looking to see what colors are overtaking other colors. I can use the alcohol. One of the things that I noticed is the 91% alcohol does dilute the color a little bit, so that you can add in other colors on top, so that I could get a good variation, because sometimes when you're using the darker colors, they do have a tendency to take over. And you can move around and play and do some things with the alcohol inks, but the alcohol inks do have a mind of their own. I will tell you that they kind of do what they want to do. We can't tell them what to do. They're like a defiant child. So the next thing that we're going to start working on is the Legions paper, and I'm going to bring in the new alcohol inks. This time I saturated my paper with some of the blending solution prior to starting, just because I wanted to see kind of how that looked. So I'm going in and I'm placing each of these alcohol inks, and I kind of had an idea in mind. I wanted to go from the greens on the outside to the blues coming into the center, and so I'm trying my best to have a little bit of control in this situation. And like I said, to some degree you can kind of manipulate the way that the alcohol inks are going to flow, but not so much. It's like not being rigid. You have to be a little relaxed when you are working with these. So this one, like I said, is the Legions. This is a brand that you can purchase on Amazon. It is a Yupo paper, just kind of like the Ranger brand. This is just a different brand of Yupo. It is a fairly sturdy type of Yupo paper. It is not as thick as the heavyweight from Ranger, but you can still heat emboss on it. When you're heat embossing on Yupo paper, on any Yupo paper, you need to make sure that you have your heat tool moving constantly, and you want to ensure that you have heated that heat tool up a lot before bringing it to your paper. Now, one thing that I will tell you is with the mineral paper, you cannot place heat on that. You will not have paper. So that is the one caveat to using the mineral paper. Although it does flow very, 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 very well, you cannot use any type of heat on that. Now, I have not tried using heat on the Terra Slate paper. So if you guys are interested in that, then just let me know and I will do a test and I will let you guys know, because, you know, just let me mess it up and then I will tell you guys about it so that you don't have to worry about using up your supplies. So these are the alloys that I am mixing into each of these, and I will tell you that these new alloys have very, very beautiful coloration to them. So I could not choose which ones I wanted to use, so I just used them all. I used the foundry going on the outside, I used the gilded coming in to the center, and then I used the mind going on to the center. So now we're going to move on to the acetate. Now, I put alcohol down first because I have found in the past that the pearls working on acetate give me a chunky effect. So I thought that maybe it was because I did not put any liquid down prior to doing this this medium with this surface. However, I found that although I added liquid to the base of the surface, I still ended up with that chunky effect with the alcohol pearls on the acetate. Now, it did not impact the end result. It actually gave some really beautiful texture and it did not turn out chunky in the end. But while I was working on it, I was a little concerned with this one. So if you are using acetate and you're using pearls, it's one of those things that, you know, it's like that trust exercise, like it's going to look worse before it looks better. This was definitely one of those things. Now, I will tell you, this was a very beautiful piece. I know that it has kind of a rainbow type of effect to it. Not all the rainbow colors. I was trying to do some variations in colors because, you know, I would just stick to purples and blues, but I wanted to give you guys a variation of different colors. So I picked out some oranges, yellows, and pinks to go into this one. Now, I will tell you, it was a lot easier for me to layer colors and to make sure that I got that yellow, because that yellow could be overtaken by the other colors. On this acetate, it was not as difficult to maintain some of my yellow color when I wanted to layer it on. So that was one of the things that I did enjoy about using the acetate, is the fact that the yellow was able to kind of hold its own in the process of all of these colors being mixed together. So I really thought that in the end, the acetate on the with the alcohol pearls was awesome. So now this next one, I wanted to take some vellum. I wanted to take the original alcohol inks and I wanted to mix those with the new alloys. So when the old alcohol inks or the original alcohol inks came out, we had the mixatives. When the newer alcohol inks came out, we got the alloys. So I wanted to see what the original alcohol inks would look like if they were used with the alloys. Now, I will tell you that one of the things that I found is that working on vellum, the inks move beautifully. I used a pearlescent vellum, and so it also provided that shimmer in the bottom. I did put some alcohol around the edges because I noticed that once it stopped, it did form kind of its hard edges. And if that's what you want, then that could be a beautiful look. But that wasn't quite what I was going for with this. So I did add some alcohol inks, and it seemed to make everything that I had dropped in kind of move collectively, which I thought was a pretty cool effect. So once it started running together, then I started adding some other inks around to kind of get it to start playing with some of the other ones. One of the things that I felt about using the vellum was that it was more like when you're doing watercolor. If you don't place water, then the color won't run there. So I could tell wherever I had not placed any type of liquid, the colors were not running. So I really had to have this saturated if I wanted it to run all over the place. Now, I will say that the alloys worked beautifully with the with the original alcohol inks. So the original alcohol inks and the alloys work just fine together. I love the way it moved in the liquids. Once I got the vellum good and saturated with the alcohol inks, I noticed that when I dropped in the alloys, they immediately start to disperse. So it's almost like they had the hang of it. They knew what they were supposed to do. And as I added in more liquid, the alcohol or the blending solution, they moved even more. So I have to say that this was one of my favorites. I think that my favorite is coming up, but this was one of my favorites. I liked the colors that this brought in. I loved the way that this mind and the gilded kind of worked together with those original alcohol inks, and I think that it made an absolute stunning background for this for the cards that we're going to create. Some really cool simple cards that really showcase the alcohol ink backgrounds. You know, sometimes you work this hard on creating a really awesome background, and then it only gets covered by the majority of your card elements. So when I made these cards, I wanted the alcohol ink backgrounds to be the focus of the show. And the other thing with that was I was able to do simple cards and do an entire card set. So now the last thing that we're going to do is we are going to bring in the mineral paper, and I am using the alcohol. I think these were the pearls. Let me see for a second. Yeah, I think these were the pearls of the alcohol ink, and I wanted to see how they moved on a different background. So this one, I'm using the mineral paper. I did not start out by putting anything on the surface prior to placing the inks down. So I'm just dropping in circles and circles and circles of the pearls on top of each other. And one of my biggest things was I wanted to see if I still gained the same chunky effect that I got when I used the acetate, and I did not. So I really feel like it is something with the acetate and the pearls that give you that different type of texture. Not a bad thing, because like I said, at the end, it turned out to be beautiful and had some amazing texture to go along with it. So I think that it just depends on kind of what you're looking for. This mineral paper came out a lot smoother. I will tell you from working with this with watercolor, when I saturated it too much, I had a hard time getting the mineral paper to dry. However, I feel like because this is alcohol based and, you know, alcohol evaporates and dries very quickly, this was not an issue on the mineral paper with the alcohol ink. So this may be a very awesome alternative for, or a variation, I should say, not necessarily alternative, but a nice variation of product to have the ability to use when you are doing your alcohol inks. So this was a very pretty, I'm not really a yellow, orange, pink type of person, But I will tell you, this background was very, very eye-catching, and it made me super happy. So I continue to drop in color. I think that when I was doing the video, and I got this video down to about 30 minutes, but when I was playing, I want to say I played for about 2 hours and 40 minutes playing with these different inks and having fun and watching to see what these do. You know, sometimes we don't take the time to just play, to just figure out our mediums that we have in our craft room and to actually take the time to do something just, I want to say mindful, but it's kind of like without any restrictions. I'm not trying to get anything done. I'm not working on any project. I am just simply sitting and having fun. So once we get done with that, the last one I believe that we're going to do is going to be the Terra Slate paper. I am using the new alcohol inks, but I am going to add in the Mixatives. And like I said, the Mixatives came out when the original alcohol inks came out. This, although I remember I said at the beginning, the Terra Slate moved a little bit slower. This was my favorite background. This background came out so beautiful. I just thought peacocks. Like, this was my, if this would have just drained down just like this, I would have left it. It was just amazing. I was in love with it. I still think that this was absolutely hands down my favorite. And this moved, and as you can see, just moved very nicely. It did not have any troubles moving around and playing with the other inks. So I love how the variation of colors stayed, although they were mixing together. It was just mind-blowing. Like, this had me a little bit mesmerized when I was doing this. And I wanted to stop, but I didn't want to stop. Have you ever had that time when you were just so entranced by something because it is just so gorgeous? It was beautiful. And so I loved the variation in these colors. And then when I added in the Mixatives, to me, that just brought out more of that look of the peacock, which, by the way, is my favorite animal. So that just made me super, super happy. So I'm just going in and I'm dropping in dots of the Mixatives. You will see the Mixatives, they move, but they don't move as quickly as the Alloys did. They don't break apart the way the Alloys did just by being placed on the alcohol inked surfaces. So if you'll remember, when we did the original alcohol inks and added in the alloys, because the paper was already quite saturated, the alloys went ahead and started breaking apart. This is taking a little bit more help, which is okay because I didn't want them to necessarily break apart like a ton. I really was looking for those focal point dots of the shimmer in this background, because again, I'm thinking peacock at this moment. And you know, when a peacock spreads, it has like these areas that are focal points within its feathers. So that was kind of the idea that I was going for. So it being a little more contained in this instance was great, but that's just something to kind of think about when you are doing your backgrounds, if this is or is not what you are looking for. And again, even looking when I am using the blower tool right over the top, it does move, but it does not go like just free flowing all out of the way. It still kind of stays contained within a certain area. For me, for the purpose of this one, it was wonderful. So I wanted to show you what these looked like when they were dry. This is the acetate, and I got a little overzealous. I had already started cutting before I didn't show you guys, so I was having fun. So that was the vellum piece. Then this piece was the piece that we used the Heavyweight Yupo on. And this is what it came out like. The shimmer is like amazing on these. This one was my favorite one. This is the peacock one, and this is how it dried. I mean, this is just hands down. I love it. Terra Slate with the original alcohol inks. So then here is the one that we did where we put all the colors, the greens and the blues, kind of the greens going into the blues. And then this was the one that we used the mineral paper on with the alcohol ink pearls. And you can see, I hope that you can pick up some of the shimmer that came along with that. So these were all of them. I am going to give you a sneak peek of the way that the cards turned out, and make sure you stay tuned later today or first thing tomorrow. You guys will have the cards to show what we ended up doing with these backgrounds. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Bye.